All right, now there's a lot of questions about what's next for Derek Chauvin. So we are going to give you an expert to answer some of those questions. Please welcome criminal defense attorney and legal analyst Sara Azari. Thank you so much for joining us, Sara. We all saw Derek Chauvin being led out of the courthouse yesterday in handcuffs, which I just mentioned. So where is he now? Talk to us about just where logistically he is now.
Good morning, one and all. Chauvin is in protective custody right now. He's in a special housing unit. And in fact, even after he's sentenced in about 8 weeks, he's ultimately going to be housed in a special housing unit. This is obviously, number one, based on the crime of conviction, which is second-degree murder. It's a violent offense. And secondly, he's a police officer. It's really, really unprecedented to see a police officer who puts people in prison to be in prison himself. So it's a danger to him. It's a danger to others. And so he has to be housed separately.
Wow.
All right. Appreciate you being here. And I'm glad you're here because you can help explain some of these charges that he was found guilty of. And what should we expect at his sentencing?
Okay, so look, this was a shotgun approach by the prosecution. They essentially threw the book at him with the charges. There's 3 different homicide charges, and he just so happened to be convicted of not one, but all 3. And however, at sentencing, it's like he did it, he really did it, he really did it. He's only going to be sentenced on the highest offense, which is the second-degree murder. His maximum exposure is 40 years. Under the Minnesota sentencing guidelines, he's facing 12 years. But then you have this idea of aggravating factors which will come in at sentencing. And those are that there were children present, some of whom testified at the trial when this murder occurred. The fact that he was a police officer and he so egregiously abused his authority. The fact that Floyd was a really vulnerable civilian in his, not just in his custody, but in his care, and he didn't render aid to him. That was just so cold-hearted. So all of these are going to work against Chauvin. The fact that he's a police officer, for a change, is not going to work in his benefit. It's going to work against him. But let's also remember, you know, Tory said maybe he'll go away forever. It's not going to happen. We have to gauge our expectations, right? I don't think that he's going to get just the 12 years under the guidelines, but he's also not going to get the book thrown at him with the 40-year max. He's going to get somewhere around 15 to 18 years is my guess if I were to speculate. And that's because of those aggravating factors. But remember that as a defense attorney, we also humanize our clients at sentencing. So mitigating factors will be important. So the idea that, you know, we don't really know much about Chauvin as a person, right? He might have some good that he's done, you know, or something maybe that was not right with him, his health, his mental health. We get a chance to see maybe some of those factors as well. We also get to hear from victims with victim impact statements, his family members, his girlfriend, who are going to make emotional pleas to the judge to do the right thing and put Chauvin away for a long, long time. And then we're going to get the idea of hearing from Chauvin himself, which we haven't heard. He invoked his Fifth Amendment at trial. He's going to get up on the stand and deliver a remorse statement. I mean, at least I hope he does, because we're going to want to know that, you know, not why this monster did this heinous murder, but more about how sorry he is, you know, pleading for the court's mercy. But again, I think this boils down to somewhere closer to 20 years than the 40 years. And then let's also remember that, you know, he gets good time, work time credits in prison. So he's never going to do the full term of his sentence. He's going to do a percentage of it.
So everything we're talking about right now is this case, how many years he's going to get on this charge. Are there any grounds for appeal in this case after it's all said and done?
Good question. So much like any defendant would with a murder conviction, we expect Chauvin to appeal the conviction and try to reverse it. But even if his appeal gets certified, meaning it would get heard, the odds of his success are slim to none. He's going to claim that the media coverage around this case was prejudicial to him. Well, guess what? He's not the first high-profile defendant who's been convicted and has said that. It's not going to fly. He's going to say that the judge's ruling denying his motion to move the venue outside of Minneapolis was inappropriate, and it was actually very appropriate because all the witnesses and the crime scene was in Minneapolis. He's going to say that Maxine Waters, Congresswoman's political statements, prejudiced the jury just before deliberations. Maybe that's enough to certify the appeal, but it's not enough to win the appeal. He might also say that the civil settlement given to the Floyd family was something that sort of implied guilt in the mind of the jurors. But again, we've seen this happen in cases like this where there's civil rights cases that are parallel to the criminal prosecution. And the fact that there was a civil settlement is irrelevant. Right. What the jury did was the jury took 10 hours and took the law and applied it to all that compelling evidence in this trial and came up with guilty, guilty, guilty. And that's it. So anyway, his appeal is not going to fly.
Yeah, I agree with you. I really am wondering about these 3 remaining officers there who are also charged in the death of George Floyd. Talk to us about these 3 officers and what you think their future will be in terms of the legal aspect of this case.
Right. So this was this murder that was not done by, it was done by 4 bad apples, with Chauvin being the most rotten one. But these 3 officers were offered a plea deal early on, and they rejected it. And they took the wait and see approach to see what happens at Chauvin's trial. And what they've learned since is that it's not good news for them. Yeah. And that if they were to go to trial, there would be compelling evidence against every one of them, except one of them, I think, was a trainee of Chauvin, so he could claim that he was acting under Chauvin's direction. But nonetheless, I think what they're doing is they're having serious conversations with their attorneys, who then should have serious conversations with the prosecution and say, look, give our clients a plea deal. Most cases don't go to trial. Most cases get resolved by plea offers. And so in this situation, even though it's like better late than never, they've lost some leverage because now the state knows how good and solid their case is in terms of evidence, even against the other 3. But they still get a better deal by resolving the cases against them, the charges against them, by way of a plea.
Yeah, I was thinking last night 3 people who might have been just calling their lawyers to make some changes might be those 3. Sara Azari, thank you so much. You just gave us so much information that's relatable and understandable for joining us on DVL. You can pick up her book, Unprecedented, on Amazon or other bookstore shelves right now.